Ryan Walker's just in front of him, sorry, so he might have to negotiate his way around that. Oh, yeah, Walker's just letting pass.
The three pole contenders all out on track, still very close to each other, possibly holding each other up if one makes a mistake. Especially talent and
just cutting up a little bit there, Scott, so I'll interrupt you while it sorts itself out. But let's have a look. Lee Morris.
I'm lagging out now, sorry.
Lee Morris it looks like he's entering the pits again this lap, or maybe just taking a little bit of a breather. He's just tagged onto the back of who I think is Concilio there, judging by the red helmet.
But also, there's no looking back down through the times, impressive stuff from Bart de Vos, our current Super Cup champion. He's currently 7th on the track, on the grid so far with a 125.8. He's currently entering back into the pits. I suppose we're coming up to roughly around about halfway through the session. I suppose we could, if you wouldn't mind, do you care for me to run down the top 10?
We can indeed.
Okay, so, as you said, Lee Morris is your pole sitter so far on a 124.7. Whoa! Wow, where's that come from?
Whoa!
Lucas Euler with a 124.0. That is a stunning lap time.
That breaks the real life record. So, congratulations to Lucas there. He's done very well in purple in all three sectors as well. So, beats Lee Morris's lap by a country mile. So, he can officially say around Melbourne he is quicker than Michael Schumacher, and not many people can say that, if I'm honest. But where has that lap time come from? We said the midnight was quick, but we had no idea it was that quick. That's a stunning lap time from Lucas Euler. I think not even Concilio or Morris could beat that, if I'm honest. It's going to be a tricky one. We've got just under 8 minutes to go now, so I'm not sure that that'll be beaten today. So just going back to what I was saying for the grid, so it is actually now Lucas Euler on pole by a massive 0.7 of a second with a 124.0. So he's actually, as we said, blitzed the real life lap record. Second is Lee Morris for drag racing on a 124.7. Third is Joe Concilio, your reigning world champion, on the 125.17. And then Nick Rowland just behind him on 4th for Midnight Motorsports on the 125.185. Jani Tanskanen is 5th for Red Archer on the 125.314. Tommy Eli is 6th for ST Racing on a 125.369. I've just seen a couple of changes on the grid go through. Quickly we'll recap on those. Morris has gone, actually Rowland's gone ahead of Concilio. He's broken into the 127s, the 124s, excuse me. 124.7, so he's now 3rd. I was going to say also 7th is now Pavel Lenovsky in the 2nd Northern, 125.62. OJ Clark is 8th for Synergetic Motorsports, 125.68. Bart de Vos for Hawkeye Racing is 9th, 125.867. And currently 10th is Simon Cattell for Kernau Sport on a 125.894. Tom Parker sits 11th at the moment. P12 is Lewis Redshaw. Just behind him, Mark Stanton, P13, time of 126. No, Ryan Walker's just jumped him into P13, and Ryan Walker's time is 126.4. Mark Stanton now P14. Ruud Heesterbeek, P15. David Stanton in the pits at the minute, P16. 17th at the moment is Ben Morgan, 18. Mark Fuller. Abdel Damghi, 19. Ben Morgan's just jumped David Stanton to take P16. Abdel Damghi, 19th, and 20th at the moment, Mark Wicks. To round out your running order today, Gavin Thomas, P21, John McLean, P22, Christoph Lichtenstein, 23, 24th is Kieran Ryan, and last man on track today, 25. Interestingly, David Junt has not set a time yet.
He is on a lap at the moment, but I think he's on his out lap for a minute. Might be worth keeping an eye on him.
I myself am actually going to keep an eye possibly on Lucas Euler, because he's actually now starting another flying lap, so God knows how quick he's going to go on this one. If he can beat 124.0, then this guy, he must be an alien, because I mean he's got experience in Formula Sim racing. He's raced a few times in that one. Obviously, we said he's raced in GPO as well. So he's been around quite a bit in the sim racing community, but it's obviously he's only recently joined us here at the GPVWC, and already staking a claim to be possibly, if qualifying pace is anything to go by, to possibly try and overthrow the top guys.
am surprised. I thought it would be someone who hasn't shown their pace in free practice, but I'd completely forgotten about Euler. So, stonking luck from him.
I think just quickly, I think if I'm right, judging by his Facebook now, I think the correct pronunciation is actually Euler. I believe.
Fair enough.
Sorry, I just sorry to correct you there, but I think that's what I've read. That's what I'm going by. So
he is up on his time at the minute. He's gone a purple. Is that sector 2? Must be, yes, sector 2 fastest of anyone at the moment. Euler.
If this is the case, he's odds. Oh, he's run wide for the second last corner. So unless he has a stonk for the last 2 corners, oh, he's dropped it almost. Or was that just lag? I think that was just lag. But coming now across the pit straight and across the line, and what is the time he's going to set?
Oh my God!
Coming across.
He's gone under it. He's gone under it. That's going to be a 123. Yeah, 123.9.
Oh, that's insane. That's just insane. 123.9. So
on another note, Lee Morris has improved to 24.6, so he's still 7/10 down on Euler. But where does this time come from?
Interesting enough, I'm finding where is the response from Joe Concilio. I mean, he's 1.1 seconds off pole. This is this is very unlike the current world champion.
Sorry to interrupt, but Euler is up on his time again. Purple sector 1 by a good few hundredths of a second. He might have just ruined it there, because he's just ran on just a slight bit, but with 3 minutes and 17 seconds to go.
I've just seen on the live timing, I believe Lewis Redshaw has stopped in the pit lane, possibly with a bloke with either out of fuel or possibly with an engine problem. Either way, he's actually stuck in the middle of the pits, and Kieran Ryan's just seen the corner of the pit and just dropped it on the exit of the last corner. So Joe Garcia just had to just swerve out of the way going into the pits. But going back to Euclid's Euler, around the last 2 corners, he's actually had quite a poor middle sector, so maybe he's actually been held up. But whether or not he's actually heading to the pits, so he probably possibly got held up on a lap time and has given up on that one. But well, there's 2.5 minutes left, just over, so to see if anyone can beat Lucas Euler, I doubt that's going to happen. Although Lee Morris is actually getting quicker and quicker. He's now out there. He's now gone quicker to a 124.4, so he's got just under 2.5 minutes to see if somehow he can find an amazing just over half a second. But whether or not he's just backed off on this one and is coming back to the pits, I'm not quite sure. Also want to update where David Juntz ended up. He's actually at the moment
17th. He's been held up behind Mark Wicks, who is another one who's... I didn't expect him to be as far down the grid as he is at the moment, in 22nd, or 27.8. David Juntz is at a 26.6 in 17th. I believe Wicks at the minute is holding up David, so struggling there with just a minute and a half left of qualifying.
Yeah, I wonder if possibly at the end of the session, possibly not to stir anything, but maybe Jump might essentially probably be in the process of being blocked by Wicks. Although essentially, if you're on a quick lap, you essentially, unless there's a blue flag icon on your heads-up display, you're not obliged to move over. So unless Mark is actually on a quick lap, I guess really David has to really possibly try and pass him. He has just backed off a bit, so he's possibly going to have one last shot to try and get up the grid. Try and see if there's any last drivers on final lap, because essentially you've got to start your lap now in this last coming at 10. So otherwise you're going to do it. And he's actually David Junt has aborted a lap, so it looks like he'll have to end up on the grid at best 17th, unless anyone behind him can improve. Also, David Stanton looks like hasn't actually set the time either. He's back down without any time, so that he may start from the back of the grid, so he's possibly having some problems with that car.
Lucas Euler is on his final hot lap of this session. He's got no traffic in front of him, so he's got a free track to do what he wants, and if he gets his way, he will improve that time again. Lee Morris has improved though by 0.2 of a second, not quite enough yet to improve a position. Tweeting from Adam Rouse, Concilio over a second off pole. The world is definitely going to end this year. It's something that's not. Oh my God, Euler, stop doing that. 0.09 of a second up in sector 1.
Oh, I can't believe this. If 28.452, it's a green first sector. So it's looking actually on track to see if there's any traffic. There is someone a little bit in front, but I wouldn't say it's actually enough to compromise the lap, although so this is Lucas Oil and the pace he's shown in qualifying so far. Let's see what he does. Now he's coming up to sector 2. I'm going to try and look at
actual 10th.
Oh, this is incredible. 26 points. So I think we're going to see, in the dying seconds of qualifying, we're going to see Lucas Euler improve on his pole time yet again. He's in the final couple of corners, I believe. Yes, here he comes. And unless he makes a mistake in the last corner. No, it's perfect. So let's see what the time is. He comes across the line. It is going to be 123. By how much? And the time is 123.6. So he's found an amazing amount. He found 2/10 in the last sector. And I think everyone has to be asking, how in the world has he done that?
That midnight car is an absolute beast compared to the rest of the cars on the grid. It's making them look like sheds.
8/10 of a second between first and second position. That is unheard of. It really is.
And the interesting thing is, sorry to say, there's been no response from Joe Concilio so far, because he's currently just under 1.5 seconds off pole position. And that, you have to say, was not expected.
There's been no response off anyone, even Lee Morris, unable to do anything against Euler there. Even Nick Rowland actually has mixed it up into 3rd spot, so he's up there with his teammate, but not quite as quick as him today.
An interesting stat is that they've still not managed to beat last year's pole time, which was an astonishing 1.2 seconds faster than 3rd, where Joe and Lee locked out the front row within a tenth of each other at 23.5.
There we go then. Qualifying has finished, and we do have a grid for tonight's season opener for the GPVWC 2012 Super League season, and it is the new boy. It is Lucas Euler, the German for Midnight Motorsport, with an absolutely sensational 123.643, a massive just under 8.5 tenths quicker than his front row compatriot Lee Morris for Drag Racing. So we move on to warm up, and this will be a chance for the drivers to last minute just to check their setups. Of course, setups would have been locked in before qualifying, so gives them a chance to shake the cars down, try them out with race fuel, and just get the last little bits and pieces on their cars ironed out before the race start.
I think if Euler is going to consistently lap that much quicker than everybody else, there's going to have to be some serious strategy attempts here. Well, I don't even know where I was going with that. It's going to have to be some serious strategy changes here in an attempt to just get one up on Euler if he's going to lap like that.
I've just seen also in the actual chat on the server that Lee Morris has announced that for that time is crazy, absolutely crazy. And I think none of us can disagree with that, can we?
I'm quite impressed with Lee Morris's time at the minute, because according to what I've been hearing, he's in a quite underpowered car compared to the ones around him on the grid.
So I think it's an incredible effort by both guys on the front row to haul it up there, and also Nick Rowland as well. But the big talking point, I suppose, is Joe Concilio. I mean, I'm envisioning a double champion front row, but that's not happened because we've actually got Joe in 4th, and Tanskan on his return is back in 6th. So these guys will have to watch them come through the field if possible. But I'll tell you what, the start will be absolutely electric.
I'm still trying to get my head around that time. That's insane.
I think we all are. That's just I've never seen anyone. Obviously, my first taste personally of live GPVWC broadcast. Obviously, the race weekend, and that's probably the best thing I've seen so far on any kind of server practice or anything. I know Lucas Euler's quick because I've actually been in a server with him on some just casually on the server, and I know this guy's quick, but I wasn't expecting him to be that quick. That's just, as Lee said, that's an insane time.
Obviously, he must have been sandbagging during that free practice session, because we didn't even tip him off as a competitor for that pole position. So
no, we didn't.
It completely slipped my mind. I remembered that the Midnight had a beast of a car and that Euler was there. He'd been lurking so far down the field in practice. Threw me off guard.
Our reigning Master Series champion at the moment is sitting 11th, Simon Cattell, for Hawkeye, I believe. I might have got
Kernel.
No, we'll get my head around these teams in about 12 months' time. So, 4 minutes of warm-up. These drivers will be using this time to quickly adjust to race fuel again after a 15-minute session of just raw speed there. I wasn't too keen on the fact that the qualifying session was changed. I'm not sure that there was that much in the way of obstructions there during hot laps, so that's a good thing, but I so much preferred the split qualifying session. No other views on that one, and so we'll move on. Pavel Otlovsky, we know he can qualify well. Actually, yeah, he can qualify well, but he's not even that close to his teammate, of course. He's in P8 on that grid, and Joe Consiglio was P4, so a good bit of air between them. Ryan Walker is P12. From his performances at the end of last season, you'd have said, you'd have thought he would have been higher than that in terms of grid position, but it's a weird one this year. I didn't expect much of that in that qualifying session.
I believe Pavel's already started a recovery race for today because he's having some technical issues. He's having to use some backup equipment to race today, so he might not be quite in the groove with what he's using.
I'm intrigued to know whether he's racing with. I think is it one of the. It's also because he races with the pads, such as myself, but he's a hell of a lot quicker. I'll happily admit that. But he's obviously had to choose one or the other pad. I think he said he prefers the PlayStation 3 pad that he usually uses, but he's also got himself a new Logitech pad, and he's previously very quick, especially lapping around on the Super Cup server when I was in there.
Yeah, he's currently using Logitech, I've heard, but the PS3 controller he's much quicker with. It's currently not quite working for him.
Fortunately, I can't really say the same to this because I use the PS3 controller, but I'm not quite as quick. But I suppose that's I've got plenty of time to come on that one, I suppose.
We're on board with Joe Consiglio just as he begins to practice his starts at the moment down the pit straight. No, hang on, this is Pavel. I'm speaking rubbish. But Pavel, he did start well. I remember him being able to start well when he actually got it away, so maybe he'll be able to make up just a few of those positions once the lights go out.
I'll tell you who will be one to watch, who was notable, who was demon for starting last year. He started third, it'll be Nick Rowland, because we know that he's a demon starter. He actually won, I believe it was the award in the Superleague for Starter of the Year, I believe. So if he's a demon starter as he was last year, he could even be a tip to be first into turn 1 should Euler and Morris get bad getaways.
We did a test race last week to make sure we ironed out all the kinks ready for this week. And one person who impressed at the start line was Mark Fuller, currently down in around 17th, I believe. I'm not sure. Just queued the timesheets up.
I've just actually written down all the names in order of qualifying. I'll just read down what in order. So just bear with me for 2 seconds.
I believe last week he took 8 positions on the first lap from off the line.
I believe he's qualified 19th on the grid, going down for what I've got in order here. So,
but if you can look it up like he did last week, he should be one to watch for lap 1.
I believe at the first race this season we're going to have a full grid, even not a grid, of 26 drivers. I think there was 1 or 2 that didn't manage to qualify in that session, but they will nevertheless be at the grid on in some form or another.
And what will also be interesting to see is if anyone decides to use, because I know one of the ways to get these cars off the line is possibly by using the pit lane speed limiter. I know it was a method that I used myself and probably some others in the Super Cup race yesterday. Obviously holding on the speed limiter and obviously just making a mental note of when the speed limiter reaches its maximum speed or what the maximum speed is, and obviously just before disengaging it. It does help a little bit with traction. So it's certainly helped me off the start line, but whether or not they'll be going for just full bore standing start with the clutch, or whether they will use the pit lane speed limiter, who knows, but each to their own. Everyone has their own style in terms of starting off the grid.
We may not get to find out, because the only way you can tell that is by the light on the back of the cars, but unfortunately we will not be able to see that today. But yeah, I know a few drivers used that last year, and it kind of works, but sometimes it doesn't, so I suspect most drivers will just be using the clutch and hoping that they don't get too much spin off the line.
Interesting to see that currently all the top drivers haven't actually gone out on, probably just gone out just on out laps just to do like a bit of a systems check. I do believe the warm-up has ended, so we are getting ready for the start of your season opener for the 2012 GPVWC Superleague here at the Albert Park Street Circuit in Melbourne, Australia, just not very far from the city centre of Melbourne. And as we said before, extremely quick circuit, very good circuit to race, very consistent, a lot of runoff area. It doesn't feel too much like a street circuit, but it should be interesting. And just a quick promo for the ways you can contact us throughout the race. If you do want to give us your quick last-minute predictions for the race, you can obviously tweet at us. We are at GPVWC. Leave any comments, predictions, and we'll try and do our best throughout the action to possibly read them out. Of course, we have got the Facebook page, which is you can search gpvwc.com. And of course, we also have the YouTube page, which I do with Adam linked earlier on, so you can find that down there. You can find all the highlights from the 2011 season so far, up to I think it's round 9, and also we will be bringing out the 2012 ones as probably soon as possible in between that, I believe, possibly.
Where's Euler? Euler isn't in the server apparently, because Lee Morris, it looks like, is on pole.
It looks like he's actually just left the game for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure.
We just had a restart.
Yeah, the warm-up's been restarted, so possibly on that one, I think. So, but that should be interesting. So, I know we had these problems last night in the server. A lot of people actually hadn't had to drop out and then come back in. So, hopefully there'll be no problems, and Lucas will be able to retain his pole position. Fingers crossed that we get no errors on that one. But it's probably going to be a commentator's curse. So, but yeah, hopefully we are going to get a clean start and trouble-free. So I know we had a lot of bugs last night in the Super Cup server, but fingers crossed that is all sorted out.
Yeah, hopefully we can get Euler back. Hopefully it's just a quick disconnect or something silly like that.
Ah, here he comes. He's back in the game, so that's good.
Just had a call from Mark Wicks. It's his first race as a non-Woods driver since 2002. About to start now.
Whoa, that's insane. 2002. I didn't even know sim racing existed then.
This is interesting because Euler's he's not actually on the top of the times now. He's obviously could just enter the server. He's actually at the bottom of the timesheet, or in 27th. So I'm not quite sure what he'll be repositioned. Well, let's possibly hope so, because it'd be a shame that that stunning lap time he set in qualifying could be going to waste due to a disconnect or having to leave the server.
No, we do have a race director today, so the grid order will be corrected and Euler will go back to the top.
Excellent.
Right then, before it all gets hectic, I will ask for your race win predictions right now.
Well, judging off qualifying, it's going to be interesting. If Euler can carry the pace he's set in qualifying, if he can set a consistent pace in the race, then you really can't look past him. Of course, you've got to obviously favour the top 4 are going to be in there for a race win. Concilio, I think we know he can lap consistently. Rowland's in there, looks very quick. He's a very quick starter. There we go. Euler has actually been put back on pole, which is good. So it's going to be interesting. It's really one of the first 4. I'll have to probably call it on that one. I don't know. I'm gonna just go randomly pick, and I'm gonna say Lee Morris. I think Lee Morris could possibly spring a surprise and maybe jump Euler into turn 1, provided he doesn't. They both don't get jumped by Roland. But yeah, Lee Morris is my tip for this race win this afternoon, this evening.
No, I see where you're coming from, but after the time he set in qualifying, I can't go for anyone other than Lucas Euler. As Phil Cullen put it, it's just been spanked by German efficiency.
Okay, so I'll say the cars are on their warm-up lap now. So, Adam, if you want to run through the grid with me, I'll run through the top 10. You want to do the second half? Would that be okay?
Yep, it's fine.
Okay, so your pole sitter is Lucas Euler for Midnight Motorsport. Alongside him is Lee Morris for Drag Racing. Nick Rowland is 3rd for Midnight Motorsport, with Joe Concilio, your reigning world champion, in 4th. Tommy Eli is 5th for ST Racing. Alongside him on the 3rd row is returning 2010 champion Yanni Tanskanen. 7th is Tom Parker for Woods Racing. Alongside him is Pavlanovsky. Row 9, we see Bart DeVos in 9th place with OJ Clark in 10th, and I'll go down to 13th. Simon Cattell is 11th, Kerno Sport. Alongside him is Ryan Walker, and on the outside of row 7 is Kieran Ryan.
P14 then is Lewis Redshaw, Rude Easterbeek just behind him in P15. So 16th place is Mark Stanton, starting for 17th is David Junt, the I don't know what's going on.
Red Archer.
David. Yes, Red Archer. Ben Morgan, P18, P19, Mark Fuller. Abdo Dongi sits in 20th place at the moment towards the back of the grid. Gavin Thomas 21st, Mark Wicks 22nd, John McLean 23rd. P24 is Christoph Lichtenstein for Green Stripes today. Matt Clip is in 25th, and rounding off your grid today in 26th place for a full grid is David Stanton for Constant Racing. Okay, just half lap until we get this 2012 season underway for the Super League series.
So, this is it then. The waiting is finally over. All the pre-season testing, all the build-up, all the shock signings and announcements that have been made, it's all culminated to this. It's culminated to the first race of the 2012 season. Here at the Albert Park Circuit in Melbourne, Australia, and we have an exceptional first couple of rows with some brilliant drivers. We're now watching Lucas Euler make his last and final efforts to get some heat into the tyres, and obviously then he will take his place up his debut race in the GPVWC, and he has put himself ahead of the established names, and he will start from pole position in the Midnight Motorsport car.
One thing I just want to quickly mention is the Dregs are actually a master of strategy. We saw them last year having to adapt really because the end of their season was a nightmare, having no research and development and no actual upgrades for nearly, actually it was probably more like 3/4 of the season, so they were really having to adapt, and they actually managed to get a real good skill of that in terms of strategy, and we saw Lee Morris take some fantastic wins off Joe Consiglio towards the end of that.
So here we go then, lights are up, and the 2012 Super League season starts in Melbourne, Australia, now! Good start by Euler.
Oh, no.
Brilliant start as well, and there's both been trouble in the back. We've got a front wing spray across now. Number 2 Midnight car side by side into turn 1, but it's Euler's got the whole shot. He's ahead of Roland, and he's also got Morris in 3rd place as well. Consiglio's trying to fight back in 4th place, and looking back through the field, have we had any cars go off? We've got a car.
There was a few front wings flying out. I can't tell who they are at the minute.
And David Stanton are both off. Stanton's for that front wing, and both the Green Stripes Racing cars are in trouble. So it's a disastrous start. We've also got more front wings off. We've got Mark Fuller is off. Ruud Easterbeek's lost his front wing as well.
Roland's right round the outside of Morris around turn 5 there. Fantastic move by Roland. It just left Morris for dead really. Morris tried to fight back, and he did for a short amount of time, but if Roland just had a better position in there. He sits 2nd now just behind his teammate. Euler in the meanwhile has created quite a large gap already as they head through the chicane, just 1 corner away.
I believe Christoph Lichtenstein will be DNFing. He's having some real trouble getting that car going again after the accident. It's engine damage.
Sweeping down towards turn 13, and Lucas Euler has created an absolute brilliant gap. He's had a Vettel-like start, and he's just streaking away from the field on his debut. And Nick Rowland's doing actually well to keep Lee Morris at bay, with Joe Consiglio holding station on the first lap in 4th. But here comes Lucas Euler round the final corner, and he leads the first lap of the 2012 Super League season. And as we said, ahead of Roland with Morris 3rd, and then it's Consiglio 4th. But look behind him, he's got the 2010 champion behind him in 5th. Tommy Eli is 6th for ST Racing. Lonowski 7th, Morgan 8th, Walker is 9th. Redshaw is 10th ahead of Parker in 11th. Thomas is 12th. We've got Kieran Ryan and Abel Damji side by side for 13th. Oh, good battle there, but Damji's kept it round the outside. He's kept Ryan in 14th. Mark Stanton's 15th at the moment, ahead of, that's OJ Clark in 16th, 17th is Mark Wicks, 18th is David Jones, just ahead of John McLean, and looking back to the field, Simon Cattell is in the pits as well, in 20th, and just exiting now, with Mark Fuller 21st, Easterbeek's in there, currently 22nd, he's coming through, and Stanton is 23rd, Macklip is 24th, and unfortunately we had Bart DeVos and Christopher Lichtenstein both retire. So that is the order on the first lap of the season.
We are just on board with Lewis Redshaw as we speak, and he is just behind Ryan Walker, and just in front of him is Ben Morgan. They're very, very close to each other right now, and to be honest, I think Lewis Redshaw will be the best one coming out of this. He's all over the back of Ryan Walker during the slightly more technical sections of this circuit, and he just looks a bit calm at the moment. He's the one doing the chasing, so he's got no problems at all just yet.
And just taking onto the back of that 3-car train is actually Tom Parker in the Woods racing car. So they're about to make it a 4-car train, and they're actually all stuck behind Ben Morgan in the red 5 car. I'm personally just looking now from the rear wing of Ben Morgan. He's got Walker all over the back of him, but he's not quite got the slipstream, as Matt Cliff is just exiting the pits from his pit stop and repairs there, so he's now currently a lap down. And Walker, he's having a look up towards turn 3 as Redshaw is sitting back and watching. He's trying to just look and find a way past the drag racing car, but still Morgan is holding up these 3. So the quicker they can dispatch of him, the quicker they can possibly get out and try and catch Lanoski, who has dropped that 4-car train. He's up in 6th place, and he's now endeavouring to try and get to Tascombe.
That's scrappy. Very scrappy there. Ben Morgan just got his braking a little bit wrong, forcing Ryan Walker to make massive adjustments, but he's got past him, and now they've got to file into order, else that's not going to end well at all. Ryan Walker now leads, with Ben Morgan having a massive moment, but moving further back now, it looks as if he will lose out to Lewis Redshaw in just a few corners time, because Redshaw just looks more confident there. Tom Parker's just relying in weight as well, so expect him to take an opportunistic move in a sec.
Parker's down the inside, Redshaw's left the door open, but Parker's not been able to find it. Redshaw shut the door there, so causing
That's
Parker
not the way to do it. Parker does not want to take Redshaw right now, because if they start scrapping, then Ben Morgan will just create a gap again and back to square one. So Tom just needs to sit in and be very, very careful in what he does right now.
Absolutely. As I said before in the Formula Challenge race, the harder these guys fight each other, the easier it will be for the cars around them to escape. And Morgan got a disaster exit out of turn 1. Redshaw's alongside, banging wheels down towards turn 3. And Parker has another look down the inside, but Morgan really is the catalyst at the moment in this midfield battle for the last few points positions. Just have a quick look up to the field again, and Tascombe's actually been dropped by 2nd, 3rd and 4th, so he's actually dropping back at the moment. So whether he's running on a higher fuel load, we're not quite sure. Whether he's just struggling with the car, I don't believe he's got any damage at all. I don't think he's hit anyone, so really he's just trying to settle in and adjust back to life back in sim racing.
Redshaw's done it right up the... Oh no, Morgan spun as he's entered into the 3rd sector, but he's lost 3, 4, 5 places there now, so but it does allow Redshaw back up. Redshaw knows he's quicker than who's in front of him now, Ryan Walker, so he's just got a little bit of catching to do now, and if Tom Parker sticks with him, then he might have a chance at gaining some more points here. But Tom Parker in the inside of Redshaw, and does it, makes it stick as well. That looked, he made it look easy there.
Yeah, so that's 8th place for Tom Parker in the Woods racing car. His next target is to try and catch Ryan Walker, who has dropped him. He is actually coming off the back of Lanoski, so this is kind of like the number 2 drivers to Lanoski and Morris, and they're going to have a set to have a battle of their own. So Walker is looking as though the drag race showing what the drag racing car can do in the first couple of laps. He's actually managed to really close the gap on Lanoski, so you probably could expect a pass in the next few moments, or next couple of laps rather. But
Redshaw fights back. It'll be inside of turn 3 there. Fantastic move. Just manages to get a cheeky little gap open and keep it open. So manages to allow him through. Very good move from Redshaw.
It's right on the back of his rear wing though. With a bit of stringent defending there to try and keep his position, but he hasn't shaken Parker off his rear wing. We know Parker's very talented. And he's a bit of a lock up in there. Lock-up. But so we know Tom Parker is extremely talented. He actually raced for Nordjern last season in Spain. He showed some really great pace. Actually, and sometimes it was even matching Joe Concilio. He sadly retired from that race, but he could have been as high as could have finished 3rd in that one. But he's showing his pace so far in the Woods racing car, and I think that these two could be battling all race long, depending on how the strategies work out. Lock up from Redshaw there, but Parker is sticking on the rear wing of this car. So this could be an interesting battle as this race goes on.
They should not be battling together, they should be working together. They need to catch the cars in front, else they're only battling over just these tiny little points, whereas they're actually faster than a few cars in front of them, so they could in fact gain a lot more points out of this if they just work together for a little while.
Just switching back to the leaders quickly, and Euler has already managed to reach out a gap of over 7 seconds already, so that's insane. And looking back behind him, we have a nice little 3-car scrap brewing between Morris, Rowland, and Concilio. Morris heads that one, and these two obviously have dropped Taskinen. I'm not sure quite how much they're dropping him by, but Taskinen doesn't seem to be showing the pace which he really was showing in preseason testing, which is. Really just question is if he's running on a heavier fuel load or he's running on harder tyres, which probably might have explained why he was a little bit further down the grid than maybe we would have expected, maybe around about 5th or 6th place he was on the grid. But yeah, I was expecting Tesla to be a little bit quicker than this.
Yeah, maybe, but he has taken a year out, remember, he does have to get used to it again. Hopefully he'll get back up to speed very, very soon, and maybe actually might be trying something strategy-wise. We don't know yet, we'll have to wait and see, but yeah, he has taken a year out, so hopefully when he's just a bit more used to racing again, he'll be able to keep up.
I saw, just looking at Lucas Euler, he has got one of the constant racing cars which got caught up in the first lap melee. He's, in the next couple of laps, I think he may have even come to lap him, so obviously already Euler's pace so far, obviously the first lap accident was a catalyst in why, that's obviously one of the Stanton brothers, why that constant racing car is so far back, but Euler I think is showing extremely impressive pace on his debut in GPVWC. As we said, he has raced in Formula Sim races, and he's raced with some of the best drivers in the world in that series. So he's definitely showing his all the skills and all the speed that he's managed to obtain whilst racing in that league.
Phil Cullen has pointed out that Simon Cattell is out of the race. The retirees so far here in Melbourne are Simon Cattell, Mark Fuller, Christoph Lichtenstein, and Bart DeVos.
And we do have David John in the pits at the moment. Now, whether that's for some damage he sustained, don't think we've seen that on track at the moment, but it's quite interesting. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a poor start for him in his season. Looking back through the field to see what else is happening through here. Tom Eli is actually back down in 16th after his brilliant qualifying, so that's a shame. He's going to have a bit of a tough race ahead of him here in Melbourne, but he's definitely trying to move back up through the field. Looking back, we could see the interesting battles going on. We're still at the battle between Redshaw and Parker. Parker's now in front of Redshaw again. Redshaw's trying to get back down the inside, but Parker braves it round the outside, and Redshaw has to back off on that one. Oh, and big lock up from Parker.
Yeah, that could have been
big time, and it's looking like it's trying to do it again round the last corner. And Redshaw's got the toe, so this could be. You're looking at here for 9th place. Redshaw right under the back of that Woods racing car down towards turn 1. And unless he outbrakes himself, this will be 8th place for her. No, he hasn't. Parker round the outside saying, no, you don't, sonny boy. This is my position.
How did he get that stopped?
I couldn't answer that one, to be honest. That's quite interesting. Redshaw locks up again, but that's a fantastic brakes on the Woods racing car. He's absolutely making the most of what he's got available to him. And this is interesting because it looks like the battle between, which is potentially brewing between Walker and Lofsky, and if that's not a graphical error, I'd say that's Walker without a front wing.
It's the same here as well, so, oh yeah, that's definitely an error. He's going very, very slowly there, so, well actually is he? It may just be a bit of lag.
Yeah, because it looks like he's up at the same pace, although, well, no, actually, no, that's not. He's going quite slow, I reckon there's no front wing, so whether he's touched the back of Lofsky's car, Parker's just gone through. Parker's actually dropped Redshaw a bit there, so obviously he's had a mistake, and this is not good for Ryan Walker. Obviously this will have to be tripped back to the pits to get a new one, so not a good start for Ryan Walker's season after it was so promising at the start. However, his teammate Morris has actually managed to drop Rowland, who's actually fallen right back into the clutches of Concilio. This is a battle of a 3rd place could be brewing, so let's just see just how strong this Midnight car is in the hands of Rowland. And
I have to say, in this situation, that Concilio will come out on top. Concilio has had much more experience battling with the likes of Lee Morrison. He will be the better driver here in terms of ability to attack and defend. Roland, of course, he is an experienced driver, but you'd have to bet on Consilio's nerves here.
Also seen that one of the drivers observing, Jason Muscat, has said that Abdul Damghi lost his front wing, and also the reason why David Junt had to pit was that he lost his front wing as well. So a lot of front wings are going astray and suffering this, so far in this race. And we're only on lap 9, so we've still got quite a long way in this race to go.
Very long way indeed. Let's have a look then. As we head into the 10th lap, we'll do a rundown, but right now we will look for people who are close on track. The closest thing we've got really is this here between Roland and Consilio now, although further back, actually looking 9th onwards with Gavin Thomas, we've got a nice little train developing here. Gavin Thomas, let's have a look, Mark Wicks and Mark Stanton, all within a second of each other.
Stanton's definitely having a look. He's right on the rear wing. Oh, and Wicks got a little bit of a twitch there, and that's allowed Stanton to close up on that one. So if you get a decent couple of corners, I reckon Stanton may just have a look for 10th place as they round the final corner. And they've actually had a decent look at that. They're closing in on Gavin Thomas, so they're using the kind of the double slipstream between each other. But it seems to me that the Audi engine in that Kerno sport car seems to be doing the job, and he's not letting Stanton get too close. But these two are still catching Gavin Thomas at quite a decent rate. They seem to be better under brakes than him, so this is a nice little 3-car train that's being done. And just been poked, Christopher Lichtenstein is available for an interview if we wish to speak to him. So
we might in just a short while, but we'll have wilder stuff on track. Oh my god, Gavin Thomas might have made a little bit, got a worse exit there because Mark Wicks is now all over the back of him, and in the next few corners you'd have to say that Mark Wicks will attempt a move. He has a look around the inside there but doesn't fancy it quite just yet. But
he's
made a massive twitch.
Stanton's actually got on the inside, he's managed to make it past, so that is 11th, that's 10th place then for Stanton, so he is currently in the points positions, but of course it's too early to be speaking about points, but nonetheless he is in the final points paying spot, and he now has a chance to close in on the Ferrari powered Red 5 racing car of Gavin Thomas, although Wicks is letting him get away too much. Oh, and Stanton a big twitch, and Wicks is trying to go around the outside, but defending there from Mark Stanton, and this is an interesting battle. It's Ferrari power versus, I believe it's Volkswagen power in that constant, and Audi engine in the Kerno. So these three still in line astern as they head down the pit straight to start. I believe it's lap 11, which is lap 11, which we're on now. And
on that note, we will quickly run down the order then. Lucas Euler is our current leader of this race. Lee Morris just 10 seconds behind him with a tree, well not a train, well what was it? Where's, his Consilio's just been dropped a bit. Nick Rowland P3 at the moment, P4 is Consilio, Yanni Tankson is P5, P6 is Tom Parker, very impressive race from him so far, Pavel Lotnovsky P7, P8 is Hawkeye Racing Lewis Redshaw, P9 is Mark Stanton, Gavin Thomas sits in P10 at the moment. Thomas has lost place actually to Mark Stanton. So Stanton has made his way through 2 cars though.
Yeah, that's impressive. In the space of just under a lap, he's managed to pass 2 cars. That's not too bad, not too shabby from the constant racing driver. We said that this car was actually pretty impressive. One of the cars that did stand out. So Stanton trying to use this car the best of his abilities. Oh, another twitch out of there, and Wicks got one as well, just trying to follow against Thomas. So seems to be that the lack of traction control is still getting used to it, but at least it's controllable with these cars. I'm trying to get myself back down to the field as any more battles we've got going on. It seems pretty spread out so far. There's not really that many cars too close together. We've had 4 cars. Now we've had cars lapped up to 19th, which is Ruud Heesterbeek. Bit of a shame to see him down there because I would expect he looked again pretty quick in pre-season testing. So it's actually both of the racing cars have had unfortunately to say a very disastrous start to the season so far. They're currently sitting 19th and 21st respectively, so 18th and 20th, excuse me, respectively, and they're actually sandwiching David Junt, and they've got just in front of them our race leader Lucas Euler, who I believe himself is coming up to lap looking down here, it must be Ben Morgan. Yes, there he is. If you're watching, just seen Lucas Euler at the moment leading, and there is Ben Morgan in front of him in the Red 5 racing machine.
Right, let's talk strategies, because we are heading into the zone where two-stoppers will begin to take their first pit stops of the race, but I don't know whether a two-stop would work here. There is it's a relatively short pit lane, so you don't have to factor that in. So if someone wants to try something in terms of pit stops, then maybe it might be someone like Tom Parker, who has moved up a considerable way from his qualifying spot. He's in P6 at the moment. Maybe he might be doing a two-stop. Well, if he was to take a pit stop at this point, he would drop down to around P10, I would say. So it might be worth it, but going to be an awkward one if he has done that. But for the most part, it looks like everyone's gone for a one-stop, especially towards the front of the race.
I'm just wondering, because obviously Euler is naturally quick at the moment, and also of course he has obviously set the blistering time in qualifying, and he's set a great pace in the race so far, but I'm wondering if he's possibly carrying maybe a handful of laps of fuel less than the guys behind him. That's probably helping him gain the advantage up front, and whether or not he is actually running a similar fuel load, and it's just its raw pace from this midnight car, because either way, you have to say this is impressive so far from one of our newcomers in the series, already making an instant impression on the GPVWC Super League so far, on lap 14 of the Australian Grand Prix.
I think the first pit stops are going to be limited mostly by the tyre wear, because most of the grid will have qualified on the super softs, and they tend to fall apart after the first half a dozen to a dozen laps. So we're getting to the point where they start to be quite a bit raggedy. I'm wondering who will be wandering to switch onto the mediums and the prime tyre for a stint.
I've just seen coming out of turn 4, just watched Lucky Morris quick. He did get quite a big twitch coming out of turn 4. So obviously I'm not sure if his tyres are possibly going, or maybe he's just a bit over anxious with the right foot on the accelerator. But he's currently looking at the gap. He's currently just about 2.5 seconds ahead of Nick Rowland in the second midnight racing car. And Casino's actually dropped back a little bit further. He's actually just under 2 seconds behind Rowland. So, and then right in no man's land, it seems, 5 seconds behind Concilio, is Tanskanen. So obviously he's, again, we said still adjusting, still getting back into the groove of sim racing, but I think still a credible performance so far to be in 5th. It's just a shame that David Junt isn't up there to join him. As we said, he's had some problems on the first couple of laps, and again, he currently sits in 18th place, looking through. And also,
Excellent pits. So he is going to be our first pit stop of the first scheduled pit stop of the day.
Casilio's in the pits as well. He's actually just finished off his stop. Let's have a look. So these guys obviously were lights from fuel. Casilio exits the pits, exits from his pit box now, and so does Tanskanen. So they're pretty close together. And I have to say that that's a quick stop from Tanskanen. So maybe he's done that to close the gap a little bit to Concilio. So provided Tanskanen can kind of turn it on a little bit more, as Parker now goes past him to take 5th place. Of course, we know he obviously still has to make his first stop. And I think if Concilio and Tanskanen have stopped already, then we could possibly expect the front runners to be pitting soon. So we're going to be watching for the likes of Euler and Morris and Rowland to be making their first stops in the next couple of laps or so, we should imagine.
Yeah, it looks as if Concilio and who just stopped Tanskanen will be on 2 stoppers then, because the amount of fuel they've took on will not carry them to the end of the race. Especially Tanskanen looked like it might have just been a tyre stop there.
Euler's in the pits, so our race leader is in for his first pit stop.
Again.
And looking to see if Lee Morris is going to join him in the pits, looking back. And no, Morris is carrying on. So Morris is on a longer strategy. And behind him, Rowland's carrying on, so these guys running a little bit more fuel. So I think possibly the prediction that Euler was running a few laps less fuel than the guys behind him is possibly correct, but obviously not as less, surprisingly, as Concilio or Tanskanen, unless they've stopped early to get it out, try and get some clean air as best as possible, and try and set some quick lap times on that fresh rubber, so they can try and get a little bit of an undercut and close the gap to these three.
That is our race leader on a 2-stop as well then. I was thinking that Tangstone might have just stopped for fresh tyres because that 7-second pit stop didn't look like he took on much fuel, so maybe he's fueled for a bit longer than we think he is.
And he's actually keeping Tom Parker honest on these fresh tyres. He's actually managed to catch him a little bit. I'm not sure if we can switch to him, but he's actually quite close now to Tom Parker in the couple of, so he's got those lines up to temperature fairly quickly. Tiny bit wide in turn 3, but going to see here what our 2010 World Champion still has in terms of overtaking, because he hasn't managed to do any just yet, apart from lap any back markers, but this is going to be full position. It will be to take his 5th place back. But of course, remember, Tom Parker hasn't made his first stop yet, and I think Parker got a little bit of a shaky exit there. And Tangstone is closing down back. Parker's actually moving over. So I think he knows that there's no point fighting with him if he's possibly going to stop soon. In fact, that could actually be a sign that Parker is going to be stopping very soon. Looking back up at the front, and Nick Rowland is in. He's heading into the pits, so the second midnight car is in the pits. And Morris is actually Morris is in as well, so this is going to battle for essentially what at the moment is the lead. Euler is now coming down the pit straight, so he will retain the lead. So this is battle for second now. And, Rowland's actually just in front of Morris, but Morris might just get out in front of him,
yes.
And he has. Quicker stop, and he's actually got that in front. And Rowland's actually looks like he's taking on
Morris
fuel.
has got a huge stop.
So Rowland will possibly take on a lot more fuel than he was than normal, possibly to go for a longer stint. And looking back to the Casilio is now back up to 3rd place, so that's not too bad. So he's actually, Casilio has made the undercut. And look at that, he's extremely close to Lee Morris, so we could be seeing a battle between these two fairly soon. Casilio does have his tyres up to temperature, of course. Morris is just out the pits, so they will be stone cold. But I think these Super League cars take very long to get the heat into them, so...
they do come, it's not like a Super Cup, they do come pre-warm, so it's not too much of a problem. A few corners and it should be nearly up to race temperature anyway.
It's just not a GPVWC race without a battle between Morris and Consiglio, is it?
Absolutely. Well, we had some fantastic battles last season, especially who can forget Suzuka, where it was right down to the wire, last corner, with half a lap to go. Morris snatching the lead, taking the victory. And of course, we had some extras as well. We had the one at Silverstone, where last lap, where it appeared that Morris actually hit Casilio, but actually afterwards, it was due to lag that caused Casilio to spin. And so in actual fact, Morris didn't actually need to let him through, but obviously at the time he was under false pretenses, so he had no idea that he hadn't actually made contact. But Casilio won on that one. But Morris is actually coming up behind Heasterbeek here. He's not exactly a slow one, so this could be interesting whether or not Casilio takes advantage and closes in. But looking back up at the front, and Euler's gap has actually been extended a bit more. He's actually now, the gap is up to 16.6 seconds. So he is exactly flying. He's just lapped Mark Wicks in the Kerno Sport Car. Looking back, see what's going on. Morris has lapped Ruud Heasterbeek, and Consiglio is next. And still within reach of each other are Rowland and Tangstone. I think Rowland has the better pace, and he's dropping Tangstone a little bit slightly. Now his tyres are up to temperature, so midnight cars initially in the first race showing a decent amount of pace.
Alright then, let's look, well, retirees today. We have 2 more from the list I read out about 6 or 7 laps ago. We have Kieran Ryan and Matt Clipp, who have also retired, so that brings the total to just 6 today, which isn't bad for Australia actually. Not too bad. We didn't have any major first lap incidents, so that wasn't too much of a problem. Yeah, Kieran Ryan, Matt Clipp, Simon Cattell, Mark Fuller, Christoph Lichtenstein and Bart DeVos all retired today. So, Lucas Euler sets fastest lap of the race there. I will look at 124.7. Yeah, that's quicker by a long way, nearly. Actually, hang on. What was his qualifying pace?
123. It was 123.6, I think it was.
So he's only a second over that. So fresh tyres. That's what happens. So
that's pretty impressive.
He is like 1.2 seconds in front of everybody else in terms of fastest lap of the race.
I think with this pace, I reckon that the likes of Casilio, Morris and Tangstone, I reckon they're in trouble for this year's championship. I reckon we've possibly found ourselves already We're only coming up to about a third of the race distance, but I reckon we've found ourselves a championship contender already. With this pace, I mean, this is absolutely incredible from someone who, as I say again, this is his first race in the GPVWC Super League. I think he raced in the Masters Series. I'm not sure if he also raced in the Endurance Series one-off as well. I'm not quite sure, but this is his first race in the Super League, and he's taken it like a duck to water. So, using all that experience in the other series that he's gained, he's definitely putting it to the max, and he is showing everyone exactly what he can do, including our 2 world champions on the grid.
Don't discount anyone just yet though, because what's unique here is the research and development, and of course all of these cars will have a speciality in terms of track length and track type. This is a very short circuit for a lot of start-stopping in the technical sectors, and there will be cars that are suited to this, and there will be cars that are suited to tracks like Bahrain. So we will have to find out who can bring the fight in other venues this year.
It's good to see that Ryan Walker, despite his troubles with his front wing, is still actually in 8th place. He's still in the points, just ahead of Lewis Redshaw on track. And we've got, just behind, 4 seconds behind him is actually OJ Clark for Synergetic Motorsports. Looks like now at the moment, Euler has lapped everyone up to Tom Eli. So he's just lapped John McLean, and he's now got his next target is actually Tom Eli. And he's not actually far too far away, he's about a couple of corners away from him. So we're going to be seeing a bit of a puff of smoke just in front of Eli, so maybe someone's locked up. It might have been Mark Stanton. But I guess now the race is starting to settle down a bit more. It feels a bit more spread out. We haven't really got that many battles on track going on, as far as I can see.
No, actually, we might have something in 16th spot between Abdel Darngi for Nijo and Gavin Thomas for Red 5. Yeah, we do. Abdel's right on the back of him. He looked like he just braked far too much for that last hairpin, or second to last hairpin. He is in the slipstream, but he can't take full effect of it there, so he will have to wait for a few more corners, I should think. But Gavin Thomas took way too much curb there. He almost ran on, so he will lose quite a bit of time. As you can see here, Abdel's managed to close that gap by a long way. He's all over the back as what's happening here? He looks slow out of the corners, does Abdel, so I think Gavin might just have to jump on him in quite a few spots here.
And they're going to have to watch behind, because they have actually got second and third place closing on them. Morris is right behind these two, and obviously if obviously Morris gets held up by these two cars, obviously Consider is just about, literally just about 1.5 seconds behind the drag racing car, so he can pounce at any time. And looking actually here, Damji's pulled over, so it looks like he's given up that fight to let the leaders go past. Of course, Thomas will have to do the same. Oh, he's gone to the grass, and that could let Damji close in again, and it has.
It does.
But it's now got Concilio. And now they've got Concilio to let through. Damji lets him through these, and
it does.
Damji's gone around the outside. Second last corner. They're side by side out of the second to last corner.
Oh, he's lost the back end.
Abdel did lose the back end there. He'll have to give that place back.
Oh, Gavin Thomas is hit. Nick Rowland's hit Gavin Thomas, and Nick Rowland's lost his front wing. Absolute disaster.
No.
That's a shame. 4th place, Nick Rowland now
he's got an entire lap without a wing. Entire lap with no front wing.
And Heasterbeek's on into the gravel, so obviously. But look at this, is a disaster. Nick Rowland, he was having a fantastic race in 4th place, got a brilliant start, and now this is heartbreaking for him so far. And Tanskin will close in and will take 4th place. Oh, this is just absolutely disastrous.
The thing is, Gavin will have been given the blue flags, and he will know he's there, so it's completely his fault, unfortunately. I know he had a little bit of a tussle with Abdel Darngi, but it doesn't matter. The blue flags were there, and that's entirely his fault, in my opinion. Having to let all these, well, that's a back marker, but he will probably lose a few more places, I should think. He does lose one more to Yarne. Tom Parker's not far behind at all, so by the end of this lap he will be down into around P6, P7.
And that is such a shame. He was, as I said, he's having a great race so far for Nick Rowland, obviously in the second Midnight car, and they're looking so good. Oh, and this is just hard to watch. This is And he's got to watch out because Parker and Lanowski are actually on their way, and they're actually close in close proximity to each other. So, provided Tom doesn't make a mistake, it could possibly trip over him. In fact, Ben Morgan is then lapping himself past Nick Rowland, as will David Stanton, and that can't be good for tyres. Obviously, he will change tyres in the pit stop, but just every single corner there's just the fronts are locking without any front grip, and he having to crawl through back to the pits. He's made it, but
very nearly didn't. It looked as if he was going to have to skip across the grass there, but he actually does make the cut in. Who's that in the pits? He's not going to have to wait, is he?
That's John McLean in the second of the Synergetic Motorsport cars, and Rowan is now up on the jacks. New front wing is fitted.
It looked as if McLean actually exited the race there, so...
Oh, so we had a retirement.
John McLean ran out of fuel before he could make it to his pit box, it seems.
Oh, that's not good. Oh,
that's gutting.
Now also looking on track here, Parker and Lanowski have gone past into 5th and 6th respectively. Parker got a little bit of a twitch on out of turn 2, and Lanowski's trying to stay with him, but Lanowski did run a bit wide through turn 3, so these two are kind of toing and throwing in terms of the gap between each other. Roland has exited back out in 7th, and he's now only 11 seconds ahead of Ryan Walker for Drake Racing, who's put a little bit of a gap to Lucas Redshaw. In actual fact, who's coming behind them is Lucas Euler. So Lucas Euler is actually now lapping everyone up to 9th, and we haven't even reached half distance in the race.
That's truly heartbreaking for me, because up until that point, he had the second fastest lap on the server after Lucas Euler, of course, but he was still a second off of Lucas's pace. Just incredible.
Okay, we have, well, we're not even at the halfway point yet. We are 35 laps remaining, so that means about 23 we've done. So far we have Lucas Euler going to a stonking lead at the moment, 22 seconds ahead of Morris, who is currently sitting P2. Consider our current champion is P3 at the moment. P4 is Jarni Tankson, returning former world champion. Just lapping what looked like Ben Morgan there. So P5 is of course Tom Parker now, after Nick Rowland's dramatic incident. Just behind him, P6 Loknowski. I would not discount Loknowski just yet. I reckon he's just sitting there nice and calmly. He'll move up towards the end of the race anyway. 34 laps to go now.
He's currently tailing Parker quite closely. Still just keeping within a second of him. That's going to be a battle to watch as the race goes on. They often race in other series and they're constantly clashing for position together.
Loknowski is has a faster best lap of the race by 0.4 of a second, so he's definitely quicker than Parker, so he's most probably just waiting. He doesn't want to be leading for the best part of 30 laps. Let's have a look further down the field as well. It looks like we've had another retirement. We saw Ben Morgan limping around the track there, and he has now retired. So that brings the tally to 7 drivers who have retired from this race now. We saw John McLean as well run out of fuel just before he reached his pit box. That's got to be gutting. I've run out of fuel myself before, but in the pit lane, ooh.
And just looking at the actual cause of Ben Morgan's time, apparently it was an engine failure. So obviously, the Ferrari engine in the Rev 5 racing car not exactly proving its worth for Ben Morgan. Maybe he possibly shifted down too much, or he's overheated it too much for whatever reason. We're not quite sure. But it's a blown engine, and of course, Gavin Thomas will have to be careful in it, because obviously he does have the exact same Ferrari engine in his Red 5 car. Just watch Gavin Thomas there. He's actually cut the inside of turn 11 quite a bit much. He actually went within the white line. So whether or not they mentioned that on the broadcast, not to try and compromise Gavin's race on purpose, that's just something I observed there. He did cut the inside there quite a bit. So interesting possibly to know. I'm not sure if the race director are at all going to take a look at that. Again, I say I don't want to ruin his race on purpose, but yeah, just obviously the rules are quite stringent on keeping 2 wheels within the white lines. So
yeah, there's just there's a few places where that can happen. Here, turn 3 and 4 spring to mind, and because actually last year Lee Morris was penalised for cutting turn 3. So was it turn 3? Actually, now I've said that, was it? He was.
Apparently, I've said it is turn 3. Apparently.
Yeah, I thought it was turn 3. So yeah, Morris was penalised for that last year.
Sorry to cut. You may want to come to the battle for 5th because Lanovsky is now on the back of Parker now. He's closed up a bit, and they've got Abel Damgi in front to lap. So Lanovsky has got closer and closer. Whether Parker's had a bit of a couple of poor laps, but the Norwegian is right on the back of the Woods Racing Honda, and we'll see here if the Estonian can do anything to pass the Englishman here on lap 27, I believe. So. Interesting to see if he's able to make a pass. He's getting ever closer. He's in the toe now. Oh, and Parker's laying through. Now, whether that was a strategy possibly just to keep out of trouble, I'm not quite sure. But he just pulled over to the right there and let him through. So
that was strange. I wouldn't think that's Parker doing that. I would say that's his team telling him to do that. Definitely. Well. We have said that Pavel is faster, so there's not much point, actually, in allowing... Oh, I know why. Nick Rowland's behind him. And Nick Rowland is over a second quicker, so rather than waste any more time fighting with Pavel, who is quicker than Tom anyway, just let him go.
Say that, but look at this. Rather than a couple of corners, he is right on the back of the Nordjern, so I'm actually watching on board with Tom, and he's getting ever closer. He's now got a chance to have a tow, although that said...
He's backing off.
He's backing off a bit. I was about to say the Mercedes engine's got some legs on it, but if he's backing off on the orders of his team, that obviously does make sense. Now, Rollins has got 11 seconds behind Parker. He's just literally gone and started lap 27 now, so he's definitely still pushing hard and trying to close that gap, as you say, by a second a lap. So obviously, I would have thought that by the time it comes around to the second round of stops.
Oh, Lanovsky's gone into the wall. He's lost his front wing.
Yeah, he's lost it.
So another front wing is claimed, and it is that of Lanovsky. So Parker has gone back into 5th, and wow, it's certainly a race of attrition, if not certainly one for front wings.
Before the battle for 5th started to take on, I was going to comment on the battle for 8th, as Tommy Lee had closed up on the back of Lewis Redshaw, but it didn't really turn into a battle. He's just cruised past Redshaw and Walker as if they're not there, and is now storming off ahead of them.
That's a good way to do it, because he's worked his way back up. I believe last time we saw Tommy Eli, he was in 16th position, so he's worked his way up 8 places there.
He has had 2 pit stops last time I checked, which was more than I believe he'd planned for the staged race.
So, heading towards half distance, and we still have the ever dominant at the moment in this race so far. Lucas Euler still lapping considerably quicker than everyone else. He currently has a 25-second lead. And ironically enough, the next car he's coming up to lap is his teammate. Although I know so that he's just passed Pavlovsky, who is now currently getting his front wing fitted. Yet he's just leaving his pit box now. But yeah, Euler is now coming up to lap his teammate, who has had some very bad luck. It's very unfortunate for the incident he had with Gavin Thomas, but that is racing, unfortunately, and I think it wouldn't surprise me at all. Again, no disrespect to any of the drivers here. It wouldn't respect me if possibly Roland calls up Thomas on that one and possibly does put in a protest. But nonetheless, obviously Roland had a brilliant start, and it seems to have not quite gone the way he planned from then on. He kept the leaders in with a shout with the leaders, but that he now faces, unfortunately, being lapped by his teammates in the next few laps, it seems.
I think the one bright spot for Roland at the minute is because of the early pit stop. His tyres are slightly fresher than people in front of him, and he is closing in on them at quite a considerable pace. He's doing about 9/10 of a second quicker a lap than Tom Parker, who he's chasing down.
And we'll see the gap as he now comes onto the pit straight, and the gap is now, I'm watching it as he comes across the line, was roughly pretty much 9 seconds. The gap is now not really changed. It looks like Parker's actually responded, so whether or not Didn't look as though Roland got caught up in any traffic, although Parker has just passed Abel Damgi, who he's got right behind him there. Damgi himself currently back down in, looking at the order, in 18th and a lap down. But definitely it looks like Roland is trying to do all he can to close that gap. Now, whether or not he's managed to close any further in Sector 1, he has, but only by 10th, so he's definitely pushing hard, and I think possibly if he keeps going, he definitely could be one of the shouts to get to move on a couple more spots. Should, let's God forbid, any of the front 5 have any troubles. Tom Eli, it looks like, I know some other drivers here. Lenoski's actually just passed Walker for 8th place, and Lewis Redshaw is now trying to tag onto the back to try and take that place off him there. So 8th, 9th and 10th are fairly close with each other, but Lenoski is back on a charge on fresh tyres, same as Nick Rowland. So it's interesting now with the different, obviously, states of the tyres with some of these drivers here, how that's going to work out come the end of the race. And obviously, Rowland and Lenoski could be in a slightly higher position than they are now, as they are on slightly different strategies, it seems.
Speaking of strategies, no one else, no one at all has gone for a single stopper. Everyone's gone 2 stops because everybody's already pitted. We're coming up to the halfway point very, very soon now.
I've just seen something. Apparently, you can see there's just been given a drive. He just had a drive-through penalty, so that he's actually dropped back by 25 seconds to Lee Morris. And Blake Carlsmith has actually just announced that it was a drive. He has had a drive-through penalty. So whether or not he's sped in the pit lane or something's happened out on track. But that's unfortunate for our world champion. He is still in 3rd place, but he's now dropped a considerable amount of time to Lee Morris.
Euler has just taken his 2nd pit stop.
He has, and he has exited the pits, and he's now only just now 9 seconds ahead of, I believe, of Lee Morris. And I'm seeing someone lock up on screen in front of Morris there at turn 3. So whoever that was, I'm not quite sure.
It looked like a Hawkeye.
That may have been the...
No, it was a constant. I stand by saying David Stanton. No, it's not. Mark Stanton. Orange wings. Mark Stanton.
Yeah, the constant cars are kind of how you tell the brothers apart. Is I think it looks like Mark Stanton has the orange wing end plates and David has the white wing end plates. So obviously, and again, 2 brothers with the same surname, obviously in the same car. Apart from turn the wings difference, could get quite confusing over the season.
Well, it's always good to have something distinguishing in the car, even if it's 2 teammates with separate names there. But friendly designs, them ones, very good.
Speaking of the Stantons, I believe David has just lost position to Rude Histerbeek, having to give way to Tom Parker.
And he has also got now, he's now in a Nijo sandwich because he has now got Abel Damgi right behind him, and also Gavin Thomas is in there as well.
It's not the place you want to be catching the back markers.
And Histerbeek takes the place back again, and Dambi's going to have a look in as well. He's on the grass.
He's going for it.
But Dambi might just stick his nose down the inside, and he will have... Histerbeek hits the back of Thomas. Thomas is straight down the road,
Thomas
and
Stanton and Dambi makes position
back up. And Histerbeek just slammed into the back as Thomas. Maybe he left his braking too late, or
Thomas has lost the wheel. He will not be finishing this race.
So the attrition rate continues. 2 more retirements, and that is a disaster for both drivers. It looked as though, just as we said, either just Histerbeek didn't catch his braking correctly, or Thomas caught him off guard. Either way, that is the end of the race for both of them, and I'm pretty sure they'll have words with each other. And one or the other may possibly have something to say about that one to the stewards. But wow, that was just the first race of the season, and we've had coming up to nearly ready, and we've just about hit halfway. So it would be lucky to have any cars finished by the time we finish the race. And hold on, we've seen something here. I think Lee Morris has got a puncture. Dave Carl-Smith has announced that they looks like Lee Morris possibly has a puncture. It's puncture from debris. So whether or not this, so another dramatic turn in the Australian Grand Prix, and look at that, he's locking his front wheels. So it is a puncture, and this is incredible. The 2nd and 3rd place drivers have had drama conceded with a drive-through, and then Morris is having to struggle around back to the pits with a puncture. And the question is, how quick is the stop going to be, and will he get back out in front of Concilio?
I believe he was approaching his next pit stop anyway, if you're judging by Euler's strategy. If Morris was on anything similar, he'd be due for a pit stop round about now anyway. he might be able to use this to his advantage too.
Yeah, he could. And looking here, Lee Morris actually he hit the front wing of Ruud Heasterbeek. So from the resulting accident between Heasterbeek and Thomas, Lee Morris came across it in the track, and he's actually gone ahead and hit it, and that's what's caused the puncture. He's exiting the pits now, and Casilio is now on the pit straight, so he has managed to get out just in front of the Nordjern.
By 4 seconds.
And Casilio is now heading through to exiting turn 1 now, so this should be interesting. They're at least on fresher tyres, but they're cold compared to Casilio's, who had a couple of laps to wear in and heat up, so it's kind of back to square one where they were before they both had their incidents, kind of. Quickly looking back up front again, and Euler has now extended his lead to almost 40 seconds now over Lee Morris as a result of the mishaps from those two.
I think Euler is getting towards the end of his stint now. He is setting personal best through the second sector, and we'll see what it is around the final sector when it updates. But yeah, he might be coming towards the end of his stint now. Low fuel and tyres are fully worn in, so expect to see him stopping in the next few laps.
Just spotted looking down the field to try and find some battles. One I've just picked up on is it's a battle could be developing between 13th place between Mark Wicks and David Junt. They're currently going through turns 11 and 12 now, and Wicks has a very slight gap to Junt, but he might just actually go ahead and catch him soon. Obviously, the Red Archer does have some pace, still have some pace in it, so possibly could keep an eye on that one. Looking also down the field for some more battles of the cars that are still running. We only have 16 runners left out of a 26 car grid that started. So, can't really say that Australia isn't a race of attrition, because we've had various mistakes, various mechanical failures on the cars. So we're going to see how it plays out in the second half of the race, obviously with our leader Lucas Euler, who is continuing to just absolutely dominate at the front of the field. As you say, he's coming up towards the end of his stint, and you possibly could be expecting him into the pits any time soon, so possibly in the next couple of laps, we imagine.
Oh, I believe there's another DNF. OJ Clark has just dropped out too. Or have I just missed you guys talking about that one?
No, I think there's a good spot there, Scott. He actually had an accident, so we're now down to 15 runners in the race, so we had another retirement. So, as you said, Albert Park is taking no prisoners. It's certainly one that's it's a car breaker if you get it wrong. But for the 15 that now are still running, it's now kind of, I guess in some cases, it's clutch at straws time as to who keeps it on track. But again, we'll mention Lucas Euler. Nothing really perturbing him at all, as he soldiers on now with it's now a 42-second lead. And this is interesting. Look at the battle now. This could be a battle for second developing between Casilio and Morris. Now Casilio's got actually slightly, obviously, warmer tyres, and maybe Morris has taken a bit too long for those tyres to warm up to their proper temperature. But Casilio has actually catching. He's now just over a second ahead of Morris as they cross the line to start this lap. So there is traffic they're coming up to as well. This will be interesting to see how this plays out.
I reckon that Joe has to pit soon, so it might not last very long. Let's have a look. Joe, no, I think he's had that many pits, a decent amount of pit stops. Right, let's have a look.
Just want to point one more thing out, is that Liam has actually come up to quite an intriguing map marker, is that he's actually his teammate, Ryan Walker. So I wonder if there's going to be any team games here, and possibly Walker might do something possibly to just hinder, not on purpose of course, but just hinder Walker a little bit. Of course, if Morris can hear this, this is not me suggesting that you do that. But Walker's actually pulled over now and let Morris through, and he's actually letting Casilio through as well. So any thoughts of that happening have gone completely out the window. But still, Casilio closes. Gap this time is now just under a second now, so he's closed by a couple of tenths to just over 8 tenths a second, so we could be having a battle for second place here on our hands. Looking back down through the field, Yanni Tant's going to have a quiet race in fourth place. No means a slow one, but he's not really got anyone around him. He's 9 seconds off the battle for second, and he is it's about 18, 19 seconds off Nick Rowland in fifth. He's still doing well to maintain his position in the top 10, despite the mishap that he's had. And Tom Parker is the last car, well, I say he's the last car to be lapped, but he's got Lucas Euler coming up onto the back of him now. So, I'm just so impressed by this pace by Lucas Euler. I can't believe he's up to lapping everyone up to 6th place already, so.
Not unheard of. We saw dominating performances like this last year. I'm trying to think of one that stuck out.
The Super Cup had an instance to, I believe, Mangiko. There was most of the field got lapped there. I'm not sure of a Super League race with her.
Oh, look at the front! I've just caught Morris has got a bit held up by Mark Stanton, coming through the last couple of corners, and he moves out of the way for Concilio, but that may have actually compromised him a bit. Look a little bit closer. What's the gap now? It is now 0.6 of a second. So the mistake has cost Morris another couple of tenths. These two are toing and throwing on lap times, and I reckon if Casino keeps close by the next couple of tenths, if these two are on a similar strategy, because of the misfortunes they've had, obviously Morris with his puncture and Casino with his drive-through, this could be one of the classic battles that we saw last year. It could be these two at it, hammer and tong, all over again.
Has it been confirmed what the drive-through was issued for?
I'm not quite sure. Maybe we can get the race director to ask us on that one, and maybe if Dave Carl Smith or Jason Muscat can confirm, if they can hear us, as to what the drive-through was, what the reason was.
Yeah, and if Joe hadn't have had that drive-through, he'd be a good 10 or so seconds in front of Lee. So that's a bit strange, actually.
One of our race director, Jason Muscat, he actually has, quote, no idea as to why he got a drive-through. Here we go. Carl Smith said he sped in the pits, nothing on track. So it was speeding in the pits for Joe Concilio was the drive-through penalty, the cause of the drive-through penalty.
Unfortunate, actually. Might have just flicked his speed limiter a little bit too late, or sorry, too early, or not managed to brake in time as he entered. 21 laps to go then. Let's have a look down the field. We have Mark Wicks and David Junt. What looks like a battle appearing. Not too far away from each other. David Junt having a nightmare of a race back in P13.
And it's a shame because he had such a brilliant season in general last season for Red Arch. He had that brilliant run of podiums in the latter part of the season. I do believe that he actually he finished 4th in the championship last season. He took 6 podiums and 4 poles, and I think he took about the last 4 races. He finished them all in 2nd place. And looking on track now, Wicks did actually have a big lockup going to turn 3. So John is now on the back of the Kerno sport car. So we're going to be seeing just what kind of battle these two will have. It's for 12th place, so just outside the points. So should any of the cars in front in the top 10 have a little bit of an error, then obviously they'll capitalise on that. Quickly looking back at the battle for second, Concilio has actually got the gap back down to a second. In fact, he's much closer than he has been in the past couple of laps, rather. He's pretty close coming out the last corner. So I did see in the previous lap Morris actually responded and actually brought the gap back up to 1.2 seconds. The gap is now half a second between these two, so I think, fair to say, game on. Gap at the first sector between these two. It's now gone up slightly to 7/10 of a second. So Morris is now trying to spawn. He's trying to lose Concilio now, but of course with these two on similar paces, it's going to be easy, especially when you've got a double world champion right behind you. But of course Morris did press Concilio in the first half of the season with that streak of wins he had, and then of course the unfortunate circumstances with drag racing where they had their financial issues, which kind of halted car development completely, pretty much. And then obviously came in Canada the massive upgrade which Nordstrom brought along, and from that period on, from Canada onwards, Casino just absolutely dominated the second half of the season, and that was what caused him. That was what led him, rather, to becoming a two-time world champion.
Saw Morris run quite wide on the exit of a corner there. He's been doing it consistently, so whether he's having a little bit of trouble from the contact with... who did Morris contact with?
Sorry, I've not got it.
Yeah, my memory fails me again, but maybe he's just got a little bit of damage there. We'll see if he does it again.
I believe it was. So I believe of the damage for his punch. I believe he hit the front wing of Heasterbeek, obviously when he lost it due to the collision with Thomas up at turns 9 and 10, I believe. That was the cause of his puncture.
So maybe he might have got a little bit of suspension damage to go with that. So he might just be having a little bit of trouble on the exit of right-hand turns.
But there was a fantastic battle there developing for the for the final point. But David Junt has just spun out and ended up blocking Nick Rowland, who's come around to lap him. It was a fantastic battle for the final point between Wicks and Junt, but Junt got it all wrong under braking into turn 3 and lost the back end.
I don't believe it was actually. I think it was like only for 12th, I believe. I don't think they're just outside the points. I think there was battle for 12th. I think. Junt has actually lost any position. She's just lost quite a bit of time to Wicks. And of course, they do now have Junt is now actually in a midnight motorsport sandwich because he has now got Lucas Euler coming up to lap him for a second time. He has already lapped the second time Abel Damgi and David Stanton, so obviously this would be car number 3 which goes 2 laps down. This absolutely dominant pace by our German, I suppose you have to call him a German rookie. As I said, this is his first race in the GPVWC. Of course, vast experience in sim racing, but of course showing his blistering pace here as Nick Rowland heads for the pit, so possibly he may have suffered some damage from that collision with Junt. Could possibly even be a scheduled stop as well, so...
I believe it's a scheduled stop. I don't think they made contact, just got in the way on the track and had to take evasive action.
That'll bring the tally up to 4 now for Nick Rowland, I think, as he leaves his pits, so not the best of races for Nick.
Looking back at the front, and battle for second is still very close. You see there, it's still less than a second behind Morris, and these two have now got Lewis Redshaw to lap as well. So, and Redshaw pulls out of the way. In fact, he pulls out the way for both of them, so that's good. And again, you see they're very close out of the last corner. But it seems to me that in some way the drag racing has got the legs on this time, because he's a lot closer down the front straight. He's got about 0.3 of a second gap now. So if you get a good exit out of turn 1, you may just have a chance to possibly take him on this lap. So. Battle lines are drawn, and this is going to be it. This is for second and third on the podium, but of course I think these guys may still have one more stop to make. We're not quite sure. But if they are 2 stopping, and they've also took on maybe some extra fuel, possibly in the... Well, no, because Casino wouldn't have done because he did his drive-through. So obviously Casino running obviously had a long first stop to take on some more fuel. Casino's a lot closer on this lap than he has been before. And just kidding.
Sorry, quick tweet from Mike Phillis, obviously owner and manager of Drag Racing. He can confirm that Morris does have some slight suspension damage, so that'll be the reason for his wider exits.
But you have to admit, even though with suspension damage, he's doing a brilliant job of holding off the reigning world champion. And obviously, of course, he's battle hardened from all the duels he's had with the Maltese driver right behind him from last season. So looks like the season-long battle they had in 2011 is set to continue all the way this season. And again, Casino is in the slipstream. All Casino needs is just one bad exit from Morris. which obviously could potentially happen with that suspension damage, and he will have his chance. He's kind of looking a bit to the inside to try and put Morris off there to turn 3. But still going, and just looking at some comments from OJ Clark, he's actually said that he got suspension damage from turn 1, from the first corner, apparently it looks like, and his car was never the same, and he, unfortunately, in his words, binned it with both wheels off it. So, unfortunate retirement for OJ Clark, obviously suffering with suspension damage since the first lap altercation. One thing I'm surprised with is, one thing I'm surprised with actually, Lucas Oiler still hasn't actually pitted yet. He's still going around, and I would have thought possibly he'd be pissing soon, but he's actually keeping going. So whether or not he has actually gone to the harder tyre and actually going for a long stint, I don't know. The gap's been kept consistent at 45 seconds, 45, 46 seconds or so to the battle of the second.
He's been averaging 15 laps between pit stops. There's still a couple of laps left in him yet if he's not going to make that stop.
Race director's actually saying that it seems to be getting a little bit dark on the circuit. I think we obviously, in terms of in-game race time, started fairly late in the afternoon, so obviously you can see the shadows on the cars at the moment. But I don't believe it's actually going to be. I don't believe we'll finish under. At night, I don't believe we'll get that late, because obviously I don't think we don't redo any kind of red flags or restarts, and we're actually quite far into the race anyway, so we wouldn't restart the race. But if we did red flag, I believe we'd call a result. So
the temperature's not dropped by too much either, so it's not going to affect tyres. Yeah, I can't see it getting that much darker. We've only got 15 laps to go, so well, 14 now. So it's not going to be too much of a problem. You can see what he says though. You can see shadows more.
yeah, ambient temperature is 24 degrees, and track temperature for them is 32 degrees. So obviously, it's a very decent temperature on track to keep the tyres in temperature. It's not too cold, not too hot for them to overheat them. So decent temperature for them to keep them in range. Try and look again to see Lucas Oiler still carrying on. I noticed that Joe's actually dropped back by a little bit to Morris, so it looks like he's actually possibly just having a bit of trouble. He's actually he's in the pits, so you can see they're possibly looking for the undercut on his final stop. He locks up the brakes, and so I think he's ensuring, but he does actually hit the pit lane speed limiter in time. He's up on the jacks now. So now I think that even with suspension damage, Morris will have to try and get the hammer down on his I'm imagining pretty worn tyres, to try and gain the advantage. Tanskin is actually also in the pits as well. Gidio has left, he's exiting the pits now. He has also just seen Ryan Walker go past him, who looks like for the moment he's unlapping himself. Quick look down the field and see if there's any more drivers making their second stops. Parker's just exiting, coming through the last few corners now, as is Nick Rowland. In fact, this is interesting.
Johnny Tankson has just exited the pits.
And he remains 4th. So good stuff from the 20 World Champion.
I've been having a look at the lap times, and it's hard to judge with the tyre wear and the fuel, but I'd say that Katigo was losing 2 to 3 tenths behind Lee Morris.
Oiler's just made his pit stop and exiting the pits now, so that stint is over, and I believe he possibly, I'm guessing you've got enough fuel to finish the last 12 or 13 laps, and I imagine he possibly would have gone onto the soft tyre and just thought, let's go for it and just have some fun. Whilst he has the timing hasn't actually updated yet with his gap. It is what the gap is. Possibly Morris could be in the pits quite soon. I'm not quite sure if he's actually in the pits yet. No, he's still going. So Morris trying everything he can to get enough of a gap to Concilio. He's trying to get the tyres up temperature. And this is interesting because we've now got a potential battle now for 5th place now between Tom Parker and the resurgent Nick Rowland, because they're now only just over a second between each other. So Rowland's pace on the fresher tyres, closing by just over a second a lap, it seems to have paid off. So obviously Parker's strategy of letting Losky go seems to have worked, although Losky is now back behind them again and quite a way. I'm trying to look again down through the field. There could be a possible battle for 8th developing soon between Tom Eli and Lewis Redshaw. because they're fairly close in proximity to each other. Mark Stanton is doing well for Constant Racing, holding out the last points position. And anyone else, Mark Wicks is in the pits now in 12th place for Kerno Sport. And looking down through the other drivers in here, that may still be close in proximity to each other. Still got 15 cars running out of the 28 that we had start. I'll quickly run down the retirements in a second. And in fact, we'll do that now. We've had OJ Clark out with an accident, Ruud Heesterbeek and Gavin Thomas also out. They climbed up at turn 10.
Sorry, Tom Parker's just got it all wrong. I'm going to slide into a gravel trap at around turn 5 or 6. Might even be turn 3, but that's allowed Nick Rollman through into P5 now, so Tom Parker pushed back into P6. That's unfortunate.
I believe that is popped up at, look at the corners, that was actually turns 5 and 6 that was actually up at there. Roland, on his way back up through the field, is now in 5th place, and he's only 11 seconds off Jani Tanskanen, so not sure quite on the pace, I'm not sure quite what pace he's got and how much fuel he's got left until the end. But he's on fresher tyres, so he may have to stop again, so keep an eye on that one. Still going round is Lee Morris. Now, the gap between him and Casillas is about just over about 22-23 seconds. So I wonder if it's going to be enough for him to actually get in front of Casillas, or whether or not the laps which Casillas is putting in now on the fresher tyres may be working to his advantage.
I've been trying to keep track of that myself. I'm having some technical issues and I can't actually get the lap times to appear for me. 22 seconds to me doesn't sound like enough for Lee, so I think he might have to put a few more good laps in. That, or he's going to have to pit and overtake Joe on track.
And if that scenario does happen, obviously we'll have another... Oh, Lee's in. Morris is in the pits now, so this is do or die. This is everything now for Lee Morris. He's already got the wheels pointing in the direction of exiting out of his pit box. Casillas is now coming up to the last couple of corners.
That was a very quick pit stop.
So he's obviously light fuel on soft tyres. Casillas rounded the final corner
Morris
now.
has made it.
And I think Morris has actually done it. So despite pitting a couple of laps before, Casillas has not made the undercut work, and Lee Morris retains his 2nd place and a nice handy little gap as well. So
he was a blindingly fast pit stop.
But the gap is now, as they cross the line, the gap is now between these two, about 6.5 seconds between these two. So obviously Morris now has to get his lines up to temperature, so provided nothing drastic happens in the last few laps. Looking at the moment currently at R3, looking back through the field again, Rollins still running nicely in 5th place. He's now just only 10 seconds behind Tanskanen, who's dropping a little bit back to Casillas despite the pit stop. Just been made by the Maltese driver in the Nordjern. Speaking of Nordjern, Loknovsky is still running in 7th place, albeit a lap down on our leader Lucas Euler. And looking back through the field, then we've got Tom Eli still running in 8th, and we have Ryan Walker in 9th with Lewis Redshaw 10th. So apart from the battle got at the moment between, or well, I suppose the battle between Morris and Casillas, top 10 seems to be very strung out in these final few laps. I'm trying to look to see if there is any kind of battle at all going out on track, and I don't believe there is. Well, only one we've got, I suppose, which could be developing is the battle for the final 2 places of the cars that are still running, and that is between David Stanton and Abel Damgi, who are quite close in proximity to each other. So that's the only battle we've got on track with 2 cars in close proximity for position. But meanwhile, this is interesting. Here's actually now, apparently the gap is now down to just 3 seconds between Casillas and Morris, so Casillas seems to be trying to get the hammer down, and he wants that 2nd place, so he will be, looks like he's absolutely pushing as hard as possible. Gap's now pretty much exactly 3 seconds, so he's got pretty much about 9 laps for him to do it.
It might be worth keeping an eye on Loknovsky and Parker again. They're not exactly close, but they seem to be close enough that if one of them makes a mistake, it could happen. There's probably about 3 seconds in it. I've still got no timing sheet, so I'm afraid I can't actually keep track of that one.
Look at my timing sheet. I think my timing sheet actually only goes up to about lap 27 at the moment, so I haven't actually had very many updates. I think I'll just refresh that quickly so we can get a bit of an update. Back with our leader, and Lucas Oiler has been virtually untouched all race. He's led. It looks like it's going to be a lights to flag victory for our German rookie in the Midnight Motorsport car. We said this would actually be a dark horse. We said this car was going to be possibly the best car in the field, and it looks as though that he is proving every single bit of that prediction right. And the gap is still between him and the battle of second, which is still getting closer and closer. Still 47 seconds, so Euler, is just pretty much just settling in and just trying to get the last few laps out of the way, not really worrying too much about getting fastest lap. I think just trying to get the real off the laps and just get to the flag and claim interestingly his debut victory in his debut race, which would be an absolutely fantastic result for him.
There's a nice little battle developing for the final point. I'll get this one right this time for 10th place between Ryan Walker and Mark Stanton.
Yeah, you're correct, and they've actually got the
race leaders coming through to lap them now.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, he's just gone past Stanton, so he created a bit of a gap between those two, and he has now got Euler's go. I just see a puff of smoke, so I think possibly Roland has locked up into turns 9 and 10. So yeah, obviously just trying a bit too hard into there, but still 5th place, still doing well, and actually not doing too bad. He's actually closing a bit by bit up to Yanni Tanskin, but I don't think it's actually going to be enough to grab 4th place. And I think also looking at the battle for second again, I think Morris is slightly just pulling away the gap. So unless Morris makes a drastic mistake, I reckon this could be he's got enough of a gap in his last few laps to secure that second place.
Mark Stanton. Stanton is right on the back of Ryan Walker there now, around the final corner. He'll be in the slipstream all the way down here, but Ryan Walker's just behind Roland as well, so he'll have to stay out of the way of him.
Difficult place to pass,
yeah, but I fancy Stanton's chances here. No, he doesn't bother. His next chance will be turn 3.
Rachel actually just told me also that obviously we picked up the battle between Parker and Alowski. Just told me that Alowski is actually closing on Parker by half a second a lap. He's half a second faster. So this could be these two battling all over again, but it's going to be for 6th place this time. And you can see they're both in the same shot, so the gap now, can't really tell the gap too much as on my timing screen on the actual server. Is obviously they're showing both a lap down.
Certainly close enough that if he keeps up this pace, by the last few laps, it's going to be side by side.
So we're going to have battles all the way down through the fields. I think the battle between, as I said, Morris and Casillo has possibly pretty much been resolved, because Casillo just hasn't been able to close in on his last few laps. So it looks like possibly Morris has kind of gone a little bit lighter on the fuel and decided to just find bolts and create a little bit of more of a gap to secure that second place. So we possibly have our top 5 locked in so far.
Stanton's had a few twitches coming out of the past few corners, and that means he's lost quite a bit of a gap towards Ryan Walker. 7 laps to go, 6 over the line this time. He can make it up. He's not got. He's still within a second, so he can make that up. And Ryan Walker's just had a massive mistake exiting turn 1.
He locked a wheel on the way in.
In the slipstream. And there's someone's locked up in front of them, but Stanton will probably try and have a look around the outside, so this could be an interesting little battle. Also, I got told from one of the race directors, Jason Muscat, that at the time he wrote it, Pavel was just 1 second behind Tom Parker, so we've still got battles going on for the final 5 points positions. As I said, the top 5 is locked in, but I think there's still going to be a decent battle for those points. The only one that seems to be in any kind of no man's land in those last 5 positions is Tom Eli. He has got Lee Morris closing up on him to lap him in second. But yeah, we do have those 2 battles going on. I think Parker may possibly have enough of a gap, possibly. Tilowski's a little bit wide in turn 3, but the battle for 10th place is still going on. Walker's managed to get a little bit away from Stanton as well, but he's not been able to spread his gap too far. So, still points and positions to be decided.
Stanton's not been able to make this gap up yet. He's still within a second, but he's lock up from Walker, but he's having to rely on those lockups just to make up this time. So with 5 laps to go over the line this time, it doesn't look as if Stanton will be in a position to make the move anytime soon.
I don't think either the battle between Parker and Loss is going to happen either, because I've just been told by one of the race directors, Jason Muscat, that Losky he's suddenly lost grip and he's lapping very slowly. So unfortunately, I think it looks as though the possible gap he's going to get, the battle we're going to have for 6th place, is not going to happen. But interesting enough, he's dropped quite a lot of time. So whether or not he's had quite a lot of he's had a major mistake somewhere, or whether or not his tyres have just worn pretty hard, I'm not quite sure.
It has been discussed that these tyres have a cliff, much like the real-life counterparts, and once you hit it, your time starts to tumble quite badly. But it's also worth remembering that Pavel did actually hit a barrier earlier, so whether the suspension damage is hurting his tyre wear as well.
Whenever it is, it's slated him fall back behind Tom Parker for 6th. Just again looking back at Nick Rowland in 5th, he's still closing in bit by bit on Yanni Tanskin. Again, I don't believe he'll have enough time to actually catch and pass him, but he's still pushing nonetheless. He's only just over 7 seconds now behind the 2010 World Champion. And in fact, Rowland actually just seen flash in the background. His teammate is coming up to lap him again. Well, I guess we have to say that it's been a fairly entertaining race in Melbourne this evening, as the sun continues to set and the shadows lengthen, and the race draws to a close. And it's been a fairly fitting season opener for 2012. I think we've seen some interesting things so far, but of course we can't judge the championship on just the first race. We still have 17 races to go in the season, and we're going to be travelling all over the globe. But obviously here at Albert Park, it's all been about one man up front, Lucas Euler, who looks set to take, as we said, his first victory in GPVWC on his debut for Midnight Motorsport, and that car looks well and truly sorted for the first few races.
Interestingly, Morris has had a rather calm ending to the race. He's not had any problems since his final pit stop, so he's just been able to lap over and over, and it's paid off for him. Still sitting there in a very good position. Looking at the best laps by driver here, Lucas Euler, 123.6. He's the quickest out there on the track, obviously, and Lee Morris just behind him, over a second away though. His fastest race lap, 124.4. It's what you'd expect really, and if Euler wasn't there, then Morris would have had a convincing victory here, because his nearest competitor, which is Consiglio, is 8 seconds behind.
I'll tell you something interesting. Looking back at that battle for possibly 4th, to say Nick Rowland would probably be able to catch him, but I'll tell you what, he's not giving up on possibly at least giving Tanskin the hurry up, because he's now got the gap down to just under 6 seconds, so he really is pressing hard. He's brought that down by a further 3/10 in the first sector. So Nick Rowland is determined to try and pressure Tanskin into a mistake, and whether or not Tanskin is running on worn tyres, or whether or not he's just generally off the pace at the moment in these final few laps, it certainly seems to me that that Midnight Racing car, as we know, is very quick. He's really giving it a good go to catch up. He's brought the gap down by another 0.2 of a second on this lap. So again, I don't think it'll be enough to actually catch and pass Tanskin, but again, I could be wrong. Tanskin could make a mistake, he'll get caught behind the back marker. But Rowland certainly is determined to at least push him all the way to the flag.
Checking on our battle for 10th then between Ryan Walker and Mark Stanton. Stanton's dropped way off now. He didn't look comfortable, and he, as a result, has dropped off considerably by 2 seconds. So yeah, unfortunate. He did look like he had some pace, but he's just outside of that last point finish today. Ryan Walker does take it though. Well, not disappointing, but not what you'd expect from Ryan Walker's last sort of last third of the season last year, he improved a lot. He was by far one of the most improved drivers last year, and towards the end he was getting consistent top 10, nearly top 5 finishes. So maybe it's just the amount of new talent that's coming here, because we have made way for Johnny Texton and Lucas Wheeler, of course. Tom Parker even is in there, where he wasn't last year. But yeah, more to come from Ryan Walker, I think, especially towards the middle part of the season when he gets back up to speed, really.
Penultimate lap, which is, well, obviously they've got 2 laps to go, I think, but or 3 laps to go. Rowan's still closing by a few tenths a lap, 3 tenths a sector. The gap is now down to 5 sector Tanskanen, so again, it's not going to be enough to catch him, but he's still at least determined to just keep pushing that car and make a point. That not just Euler that can dominate in a midnight motorsport car.
Euler is coming around to start his final lap of this race then. He leads by, well, I can't tell you that because my timing's gone, so...
I can come across the line and say it's actually, across the line, it's 39 seconds he's still leading by. So he's dropped a little bit, he's obviously dropped his pace, but obviously, well, it's 38.4 now, but for good reason, because he's had no one, absolutely no one challenge him all race long, so I can't really surprise that he's just trying to just cruise to the finish and get the win in the bag.
Yep, apart from a little bit of pit stop shuffling, he has led from start to finish convincingly. His qualifying time obviously reflected that as well. We didn't pick up on that, actually, that his qualifying would be so good. He's come out of nowhere. Bit of a dark horse, especially from the only free practice we saw, so someone to watch for the season. Whether his car will be disadvantaged when it comes to other tracks, we won't know until we visit them. I think, where are we next week? Well, in 2 weeks.
In China. Shanghai. I believe we're in Shanghai as the same Super Cup. So we're doing that. Just want to quickly one thing. Dave Cosmo's actually noticed something as Euler's on the last couple of corners. He's dropped his pace so that he doesn't lap Nick, so it gives him an extra chance to extra lap to try and catch close on Yanni further. It's a good go, but I don't think he'll do it. But well, here he comes then. Last couple of corners, and after an absolutely stunning qualifying time, it's a debutante winner in his first race as Lucas Euler comes round the final corner, and he takes victory here at Australian Grand Prix, and an absolutely stunning performance by the German. Absolutely fantastic display of driving, and that could be a warning shot to the other drivers in the field. But an absolutely brilliant display by Euler, and I think he'll be no doubt be absolutely overjoyed with that in the car. Looking back,
is coming around. Just 3 turns left for Morris, then. Well, 3 and a bit. He's still going wide on exit. It's been going wider and wider, so that suspension damage proving a bit of a problem, but not anything that Morris can't handle. Over the line to take second, not by a very long way. Concilio just behind him, coming around the final corner now.
Yeah, because Loska was just behind him there, but Concilio, a reigning world champion, kicks his season off with a 3rd place, so at least he's on the podium. So that's our top 3 locked out. And battle for 4th, as we said, Tanskanen will just hold on to that by just about 4.5 seconds. So interesting comeback for our 2010 world champion, as I said, a season out, but he does have at least a decent and respectable beginning to his 2012 season after this sabbatical. Rounds the final corner, and he will come across in 4th place for Red Archer Racing. And just behind him, in fact, here he comes actually, right the way down to the line, comes Nick Rowland, and the gap was just over 4 seconds between them. So good fight back from Rowland for 5th. And we're still waiting for the first of the lap cars to come through, which is Tom Parker. In fact, he has already finished. Any more cars to finish? No, that's it. So we've had every single car finish on here. And obviously we've got Euler trailing back to the pits. So, yeah, I guess it's time to run down our finishing order.
It is indeed, obviously, our winner today, Lucas Euler. We're going to have to wait for it to scroll around because it's bodged up. 1 second. We'll read it as it goes. Yeah, so Lucas Euler finished today in top spot. Lee Morris was 2nd, Joe Concilio was 3rd. P4 was Johnny Tankston, Nick Rowland was P5. Someone's going to have to write out the top then because it scrolled by.
Sorry, up to top 10 or?
Yep.
Top 10. So back down in 11th is Mark Stanton for Constant Racing, with Mark Wicks 12th for Kerno Sports. 13th, David Junt for Red Archer Racing, David Stanton 14th, and Amal Damji was the 15th and final finisher on track. And our retirements in order of position was OJ Clark in 16th, Peace de Beek in 17th, Gavin Thomas 18th, Ben Morgan 19th, John McLean 20th, 21st is Kieran Ryan, 22nd Matt Clipp, 23rd Simon Cattell, 24th Mark Fuller, 25th Christopher Lichtenstein, and 26th, unfortunately out on the first lap, was Bart DeVos.
Yeah, it looked like it was an incident there that took out a few other people from what I've read on the forums. But anyway, on with what we've seen today, and it's time to pick a driver of the day each.
Well, you can't really look past the obvious point. I think possibly it's going to have to go to Euler, because he's actually driven, in my view, an absolutely faultless race. Absolutely unbelievable qualifying time, great start, had not challenged at all, faultless pit stops, and just even eased off his pace to help his teammate out. So, in my view, that was the perfect race for him, perfect start to the season, and definitely one to challenge the likes of Concilio and Morris in the championship this year.
You can't really fault Euler's race. He's dominated from start to finish. He's just been so quick here compared to everyone else.
I'm going to go actually with Nick Rowland down in 5th position. He had a nightmare of a race and ended up 5th after a fight back. So a very good race for him. He can take something away from that. He can be pleased with that. But just remember that he was taken out and he did have a few problems. So he could have been up there.
It was a very good drive back from Nick. He was one I was considering. Couldn't quite make a decision between it.
Now we've got our race winner and his teammate Nick Rowland are in the waiting room, so we could get them in for an interview.
Yes, we'll get our podium in for an interview very quickly. Joining us first though is Lucas Euler. Lucas, first race here in the Super League and your first win. What's it like?
Oh, yeah, it feels great. I mean, I came into the league and planned to do Super Cup, but then was offered the drive Super League, and yeah, I really wanted to show the people out there that I can race. But I must thank the whole team, because they have absolutely done a superb job over the whole winter, and yeah, it's really a pleasure to drive from midnight.
Because again, I'd say you had a fantastic qualifying session with a stunning pole position lap time, and of course a faultless race this way. Obviously you must go into China with high spirits to possibly make it 2 wins out of 2.
Oh, I'm looking from race to race. Next race, same, I give my best as every race, and I see what happens. If I am able to fight for the victory, I surely will do it.
Did you truly expect to be this much quicker than anyone else so far today?
I knew we had a very, very good car, and to be honest, sometimes during the week I was a bit nervous if it really is a big gap, but I was pretty sure I was a good length before the other teams. We as a whole team. It's a shame Nick had a eventful race and wasn't able to show his out the race.
Alright Lucas, well done today, and very well, we'll see you in Shanghai in a week's time. Thank you very much for today. Up next we have Lee Morris, who finished
There's no way we can take him blame for that, unfortunately, because he had a cute apex.
Lee. Sorry, I've just dragged you up. Sorry.
Thank you for that.
Dragged you up in the middle of a conversation there, sorry. Right, so you finished second today. Can you comment on what you expected coming into this race?
To win.
But were you surprised by the pace and the speed of Lucas?
I'm surprised and pretty. It wasn't expected, but I'm surprised at the pace of the Midnight car, not Lucas. I am very, very surprised at the pace of that car. It's unbelievable, the grip that car has. We watched it in qualifying, and there's no way on earth I could do that lap time in this car ever. Even with 10 upgrades, I don't think whatever they've got with that car is superb. And I really don't see how anyone's going to challenge him all season with that sort of pace. There's no way we can beat him. He could have lapped the entire field today if he wanted.
Lee, your formidable foe in the race was obviously your season-long rival last season, Joe Concilio. How much of a threat was he today, possibly to your second place?
Mid-race, well, early on, we had the measure of him because it was Nick and Joe behind me, and I wasn't really pushing because there's no point. I couldn't really catch Lucas. His pace was like a second lap faster. But I just basically settled into rhythm and got down to second place and aimed to keep that. Obviously, Nick took a hit and went back, I think, and then Joe sort of fell back for me a bit. Then all of a sudden, mid-race, I think Joe got a drive-through penalty, and we thought, oh great, second